Willkommen, liebe Leute, zu einem zweiten Teil des Videos hier am Central Marine Campus in Moines. Wir sind super gespannt, mit weiteren Schülern und Studenten zu sprechen, die uns erzählen, was sie hier alles Tolles an Arbeit machen. Ich wurde neulich mal in einem Video, in einem Kommentar gefragt, was denn eigentlich an Berufen alles gebraucht wird in den Aquarien. Und das ist natürlich genau so ein Punkt. Wenn man in einem Aquarium anfangen möchte, natürlich gibt es die ganzen Jobs, wo man nur Verrohrung macht, weil man bei einer Verrohrungsfirma arbeitet. Natürlich gibt es die Jobs, wo man nur Glasbecken aufbaut, im Hintergrund Sachen aufbaut, Wände mauert. Alles das wird natürlich benötigt. Aber wenn man ein Aquarist werden möchte, also jemand, der Tiere pflegt in einem öffentlichen Aquarium zum Beispiel oder eben in der Aquakultur, dann ist es meistens so, dass Menschen gebraucht werden, die einen guten Hintergrund über alles Mögliche haben. Das heißt, es geht nicht nur um das Tier oder es geht nicht nur um das Wasser, sondern es geht auch darum, wie kommt das Wasser zu dem Tier, wie kommt das Wasser wieder weg, wie filtern wir das, wie reparieren wir Pumpen, wie reparieren wir unsere Verrohrung, wenn da irgendwas leckt. Das sind alles Sachen, die gehören natürlich mit dazu. Und alles das wird hier unterrichtet. Also ein geniales Programm. Und jetzt wollen wir mal mit ein paar Studenten sprechen, was die hier alles noch so im Einzelnen an Projekten machen. Wir steigen direkt wieder weiter ein. Please tell us what you're doing here.
Hi, so this is our whole quarantine setup for the new fish and organisms that we get. And we have them all sorted into different systems here. This system mostly has some tropical fish that we're hoping to add to the systems over there with coral. We have some bang eyes, some copper bands.
You receive the fish from where? Do you actually buy them?
We got them wholesale from a company in LA.
Okay. And
they shipped them over here, and we dedicated a whole day just to unboxing them and sorting them into tanks and making sure they all arrive.
How long do you keep the animals in the quarantine system?
After we get a new organism, we put them in at least for a month, and if anything happens, like we find a parasite or there's a death or there's a spike in water quality, we reset the counter and we wait another month. We make sure there's always a month of distance between when something happens and then when we move them, so we can ensure that they're all healthy and can be safely moved to new tanks.
Yeah, now you're going to do the German translation. Hier wird zum Beispiel Quarantäne gelehrt. Tiere, die hier reinkommen, in diesem Fall zum Beispiel vom Großhändler in LA, die werden hier aufgenommen, werden entnommen. Das dauert natürlich immer ein bisschen, bis die Tiere alle in ihren Aquarien sind. Und dann werden die für mindestens einen Monat in der Quarantäne gelassen. Es wird halt geguckt, hat der Fisch irgendwelche Parasiten, ist der Fisch krank, müssen wir ihn irgendwie behandeln. Sobald irgendwas auffällt, startet die Behandlung und danach wird der Timer wieder neu gesetzt auf weitere 4 Wochen. Also die Fische kommen erst in das Hauptsystem, wenn der Fisch wirklich für 4 Wochen total gesund aussieht.
What's really cool about these lionfish is that they're an invasive species, and since we want to represent that, we're going to move them into a tank that's dedicated to like Atlantic-like fish, and we're going to move them in there and have a little sign that shows these fish are not actually from there, they're invasive.
They don't belong here.
And we're going to try and get that out there because this is a massive issue with invasive species. What's really cool about these corals is that we actually have a special research project going on that we're saving these for over in another area of our lab, where we're going to put them in a couple of tanks. We're going to separate them. And then we're researching on how they interact with algae. So we have 6 tanks set up, and one of them is just going to have corals and no algae. And then in the other 4, we have just different corals and different algae, and we're going to see how they interact and see if these algae and corals can be safe together in an aquarium and not damage each other.
That is amazing. So you get to try out things.
Yes.
That's great. Fantastisch. Hier wird zum Beispiel mit den Korallen gearbeitet und die Korallen werden in verschiedene Aquarien eingesetzt, um zu gucken, wie verhalten sich die Korallen und welche Interaktionen gibt es, wenn zum Beispiel ein Aquarium unheimlich viele Algen drin hat oder andere Spezies. Da wird einfach geguckt, was passiert eigentlich zwischen den Korallen und zwischen den Lebewesen. Welche Interaktion findet da statt? Wann geht es denen gut, wann geht es denen schlecht? Besser kann man das ja nicht lernen, als wenn man das hier unter Aufsicht dann erklärt bekommen, was eigentlich passiert. Die Schüler sollen aber alles selber rausfinden und wenn sie dann Fragen haben, dann sind die Lehrer dafür da. Und die bieten natürlich auch die Connections an zu den ganzen Spezialisten, die hier aus den öffentlichen Aquarien kommen. Ah, horseshoe crabs.
Yeah, we have about 13 horseshoe crabs. We got a bunch of them. We're also going to have another system dedicated to invertebrates, and that's where these are going. We have some flounders here, which are a type of flatfish. Their heads are like sideways and they bury in line in the sand. We have some toadfish, which generally hide in caves. When prey comes by, they snatch at them. And then we have some batfish here, which walk along.
What is that?
They're called walking long-nosed batfish. They walk along the bottom of ocean and they dig up shrimp, crabs, snails, and then they eat them. And we're probably going to have a tank dedicated to each one of these,
okay,
because they're just that cool. We're really excited to have this, and we hope they make it through the month and we can get them into a tank, and we're really excited to have them.
That is so cool.
If you want, I can do a live feeding right now of these flounders and toadfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Up squid that's been prepared, and we just take some of this squid. We have a little feeding stick here. We stick it on the feeding stick. Stick here. Sometimes they take a little while to want to bite, but they'll lunge at it. Come on.
There she goes.
That. And they eat it straight off the feeding stick. And then they go back down to the bottom and bite. We have a few more tanks of quarantine here. We have some more tropical fish that we're keeping. But the real headline here is that we have a bunch of sailfin mollies. Once they've been through their month and been moved, we're going to move them, and we're hoping that they will breed and we can successfully breed some more sailfin mollies and spread them across a bunch of our tanks and just have this as a standard schooling fish.
I think I've had those when I was like very, very young with my first freshwater tank. And then somebody told me you can actually keep them in the saltwater tank as well.
Yep, and we're hoping to be able to breed them and then spread them out all over the lake.
That's really cool.
We have a clown frogfish and a sargassum fish, and these fish are also really cool. They're predatory, they sit there, and here we're going to do a little live feeding of them.
Ja, ein Stäbchen essen kann nicht jeder. All right, well, thank you.
We have a zebra moray in here, and most of the fish in here are quite aggressive, so we have to almost distract them.
To feed the moray?
Yeah, because that and the cowfish will try and steal its food.
So how are you distracting them? With more food?
Yes, we are giving them their own food at the same time that we give the eel the food.
All right.
The cowfish, this yellow one, and the pufferfish will bite you sometimes, so you have to be really careful when you stick your hand in, because even if they already ate, they'll go after you because they're just kind of aggressive and rude.
They just enjoy biting people.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Now.
So one of our display tanks is the reef fishes tank. We've got some gobies and some little guys just peeking out right there.
Very nice. It's, you know, again, cleaned and everything. Makes a really good impression.
Okay, so we've got our biggest protein skimmer over here. Definitely smells sometimes, but it is connected to our ray tank filled with some frog spawn that we have fragmented ourselves over in some more coral tanks over there. We just occasionally, when we get a good batch, we'll come in and put it in here. We've got some leathers, got some tangs just swimming by right now. This tank also gets mysis and flake.
Our goal with this tank is a pelagic spawning tank. So eventually we're students are going to build egg collectors to go into this tank so we can try and collect pelagic eggs, which I think that's really cool. When you look at it, you look down into it. So you look from like a bird's eye view versus most tanks you see like eye level or maybe even they're like taller. But this one, there's no glass right here. You can't see the side of it. So I feel like it's a very like natural tank and the fish have like a more natural habitat in this tank, which I think is really cool.
It's really cool the way it's set up. It makes it harder to clean, that's for sure. These are our clownfish that have been bred by us. So when we go into our back lab, we'll show you our juvenile and our eggs, and we've got broodstock tanks as well. But these are some of our successful batches. We've got a mix. There's some Dominoes somewhere in here, some mochas. It's really fun to feed these tanks just because they know you're coming to feed them.
Yeah.
Like, since they grew up in the lab, you walk by this tank and they're all gonna like swim right up over here. Some more grown out ones. And then we've got some bigger ones, and these are the ones that I believe we are trying to like pass on to fish stores. We are very lucky because we got an original pair of maroon clowns, and we also bred them into a thunder variation. So we've got a lot of ones that just have their normal maroon stripes. We've got thunder variations and the lightning variation, and we're continuing. We've got 2 different pairs of them in our broodstock tanks.
Also die ganzen Clownsfische zum Beispiel, die ihr in den Becken seht, die sind alle von den Schülern gezüchtet worden. Alle aufgezogen, die haben hinten im Lab einen Bereich, wo sie sozusagen die ganzen Larven dann präparieren und das Ganze dann irgendwann in den großen Becken hier endet. Die ganzen Tiere sollen dann zu den Aquarienläden versandt werden und verkauft werden, damit man hier ein bisschen mehr Geld reinbekommt. Mit dem Clownfisch kann man natürlich nicht wahnsinnig viel Geld verdienen. An dieser Stelle der Spendenaufruf, bitte, bitte, bitte. Guckt euch das mal an, was die hier machen. Vielleicht wäre es auch für Deutschland mal eine super Idee, sowas zu machen. Ich fände das fantastisch, wenn es da eine Aktivität geben würde neben der Schule, wo Kinder oder Schüler eben sowas lernen könnten. Das große Aquarium, natürlich auch ein interessanter Aufbau, weil einfach nur von oben zugänglich ist. Das gibt dann den Schülern einfach mal einen anderen Blickwinkel. Man kann die Tiere nur von oben sehen, man kann das Becken nur von oben pflegen. Insofern also völlig anders, als man das normalerweise in der Aquaristik gewohnt ist. Kleine Geschichte nebenher, auch hier passiert das natürlich, man lässt mal das Spülventil vom Abschäumerbottich auf und schon ist das Becken ausgesüßt. Die Dinge passieren hier, die werden dann besprochen, was passiert ist, warum was passiert ist, wie man es regeln kann, und da muss man eben beim nächsten Mal darauf achten, dass man das Ventil irgendwann wieder zumacht.
We've got another broodstock in the works. This is just our clown broodstock. We've got everything from maroons, saddlebacks, gold bars. We've just got plain ocellaris, mocha ocellaris. We've got a new pair of black ice and blacker ice clowns on the other side that we've been trying to breed. I don't believe that they are sexually matured yet. We keep an eye on them every morning and every night. We go through and we check the eggs, and we have students who are geared towards just breeding. So they'll work and they'll pull out the eggs, they'll set up the tanks in the back labs, and we've been doing different experiments to see what's best to help them grow.
We are working on a shrimp culture. We started right off the bat with cleaner shrimp, which is really hard, and they're on day 7 right now, and we'll look at that in a minute. But our goal is to start trying to get other shrimp, and we have some fire shrimp too. And we have 1 coral-banded shrimp. We got 2, but they were the same gender, so they try to kill each other. And we gave one of those to Dr. Berard. So we have the fire shrimp and the cleaner shrimp that we're trying to breed.
This is your copepod culture and everything?
Yeah, this is our algae grow out. So we start with algae. Currently, we don't have any students trained on it, so every weekend I come in and I update it. They just split the jars throughout the week. We also had our copods. They unfortunately crashed, so we've got them up here in a very dangerous place.
Okay.
So we're just making sure that they don't mix in with the algae at all. We take the algae out, we feed it to the copods, the rotifers, in that order. We wash our hands, make sure everything's cleanly. We take our jars, we scrub them as much as we can, put them in a bleach sink, and then we have a 24-hour station in there where we put the vinegar in, and we wash the straws and the lids every time.
Auch natürlich ein Wahnsinnsaufwand, die gesamte Algenstation, das ganze Nebenfutter vorzubereiten. Und es muss immer super sauber sein, weil wenn man eine Kontamination dazwischen hat, bricht halt die gesamte Kultur zusammen. Das heißt, die Schüler lernen auch, wie man die ganzen Behälter sauber macht, das Ganze nochmal 24 Stunden lang in Essigsäure einlegt, damit wirklich alles tot ist und dann keine Kontamination stattfinden kann, wenn die nächste Kultur sozusagen angesetzt wird. Das ist alles Handling, was man hier hands-on lernt.
Our copods unfortunately did crash, so right now we're bleaching them, and hopefully within the next week we'll get them back up and running. Especially with the new blue devil damsels that we've gotten, we think that they're gonna survive better if we feed them copods. Right now they just get rotifers, and occasionally a bit of brine is what we've been testing. We've got our rotifers, Over here, just 3 small buckets that we do water changes on, and we feed out the algae to them every day. And then we use our rotifers to feed out. The clowns do especially well with the rotifers as they're growing up. So we cleaned up the best that we could back here, but we have projects going on constantly. Like you see, we've got a whole pile of lights that we're working on putting up. We've got a ton of plumbing, and we also have, like, students do have access to tools, certain tools in the back, and we're allowed to use anything. We just occasionally have to have Mr. Embry's, like, permission or to supervise, because we aren't exactly a workshop class.
Okay.
We don't always know how to use those things. We've got 2 baby stations right here currently with some tiger gobies. Once we get our grow out system going, we would have like 5 to 8 tanks just full of babies that are slowly growing out. We've got some black ocellaris. I actually was able to hatch these ones this summer, so they're growing up pretty quick. We've got some more dominoes mixed in here.
So with this project, we took one of our cleaner shrimps that we saw had eggs, and my friend was reading how to raise and train your peppermint shrimp. She has that, and we were reading it, and it said that if the eggs look more like silvery, that they're about to hatch. So we took a shrimp from our best judgment that we thought looked like it was about to hatch. We put it in here. We built a cage for it ourselves. Not like a cage, but like a holding area, because the shrimp she'll eat her babies, and we didn't want that to happen. So then we did that, and they hatched, and we got them. Today's day 7, so a week ago. And today, of course, of all days, we got here, and there's a big loss. Most of them are dead. We have some alive still, and this was our first trial run ever. This was our first time doing it, and we learned a lot from it. Of course, the day you guys were coming in, they all happened to have a loss, but there are still some alive. That's why we still have it up right now, because we don't want to lose hope on the few that are there.
Alles von Studenten gebaut, alles von Schülern. Das heißt, die arbeiten hier mit Werkzeugen, die haben komplette Ausstattung hier, um Holzgestelle zu bauen, irgendwelche Halter, das Ganze zu verrohren, das Kleben. Die Lehrer leiten das so ein bisschen mit an und sorgen dafür, dass sich eben keiner die Finger abschneidet. Aber ansonsten wird hier alles tatsächlich von den Schülern gemacht. Das ist echt beeindruckend. Wir haben gerade eben im Lagerbereich hinten auch gesehen, neue Lampen, also riesige Ladung Coral Care. Die kommen tatsächlich von Coral View. Hello to my friends. Und da gab es ein Funding für die Schüler hier. Die haben also dann, ich glaube, für einen Wert von ungefähr 30.000 € Lampen bekommen. Und die werden hier gerade installiert. You've been installing new lights.
Yes, just yesterday, or 2 days ago, I finished putting up these lights, these 3. We've just gotten a huge shipment of these, and we've been slowly deciding what tanks we were on. So this is our hard coral tank, or one of our hard coral tanks, and our corals are not very happy. We discovered they didn't have enough light. So in kind of a rush, right at the end of class, my teacher was like, can you help me? How much time do you have? Can you help me get up some of these lights? And I didn't know what I was getting into. These lights they're very complex. You have to wire them into the controller. And so I stayed after school for an hour and a half to get these up and hung. And I'm pretty proud of how they turned out. I feel like they look very good.
And that's the first time you mounted lights over an aquarium, right?
Yes.
So that's a very good experience.
I'd never seen these lights before. I just opened up the box and started working. So you can see they're wired in. These wires are meant to have it hang from the ceiling.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of modify the way we used the wires that came with. So we actually have it looped back through. Technically this is upside down.
Yeah.
But we made it work really well actually to go around our pipe here. And then the lights hung beautifully. All 3 lights are wired to the same controller, and we are controlling it from a phone. And then the power is coming from our outlets to make the lights.
Very cool.
Our seahorses over here, we are working on breeding them. We got them about 2 years ago, and we successfully bred 3 of them. And since then, we haven't had any luck. We've tried different things, like the amount we feed them. We've tried changing the temperature.
Have you tried the same things you did when you successfully bred them?
We don't know what we did when we successfully bred them. It must have been a total accident. We were able to grow them out successfully, but
Nobody
we
wrote it
cannot
down.
seem to get any other problem. That is one thing that we do really need to improve on in here, is not communication, but what we track.
Yeah.
That's something that we're working on. Over on Dr. B's side, we've got students who come out and we take notes every day. But over on Aquarium Sciences side, we're slowly delving into more of the water quality, taking note of that especially with breeding because of how important that is. There are so many times where we just forget to write things down and then we can't go back to it.
Water quality is a good point. They also have a water quality lab here, but I think this is something that Claude is going to show you a nice video about that. So we'll link that video definitely for you to check out. And then you'll learn a bit about water chemistry with our friend from Fauna Marin. Thank you so much. It's been the second video now on this site, and I think you've been doing impressive work. So thank you for letting us in and showing us everything. Thank you for stepping in front of the camera, which is not, you know, it's not been expected, so it's great that you did that, and hopefully we'll find some more areas that we can hang out and find out things here and help you a little bit with the educational part. Thanks for having us. It's been absolutely great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I guess we'll be back in Des Moines at some point to check this out. So, liebe Leute, ich hoffe, das hat euch gefallen. Es war mal was völlig anderes für uns auch. Ich hoffe genauso wie für euch. Und ihr seht mal einen völlig anderen Blickwinkel auf die Meerwasseraquaristik und was die Ausbildung in der Meerwasseraquaristik angeht. Ich hoffe, wir können da auch mal vielleicht ein paar Sachen bei uns etablieren, die ähnlich erfolgreiche Geschichten bringen. Also, bleibt dran, bis zum nächsten Video. Guckt euch die anderen Videos an von Claude und von Tobi. Die werden sicherlich auch hier noch ein bisschen was filmen. Das wird bestimmt interessant. Also, ich hoffe, wir sehen uns in Kürze wieder. Denkt dran, lasst uns ein Like da und abonniert unseren Kanal. Bis bald, macht's gut, ciao.